Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that digs through stacks of research, reports, and studies to pull out the key insights for you. Today, we're plunging into something really fascinating, the genetic story of the United Arab Emirates. And here's a hook right away. Think about a region with strong traditions, like historically high rates of cousin marriages. You probably assume intuitively that means a pretty uniform genetic makeup, right? But the research, it actually shows a surprising amount of genetic diversity among UAE nationals. Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission today is to explore how history, geography, and, well, cutting-edge science all weave together in the UAE's DNA. We want to challenge some assumptions, uncover these ancient connections stretching across continents, and then look at the future genomic medicine and, yeah, the tricky ethical stuff, too. It's more than just science. It's a real narrative about people and identity.
It really is. And what's genuinely fascinating here is how genetics can shine such a bright light on both the deep past and the immediate future for a whole nation. Understanding a population's genetic architecture isn't just about tracing who your ancestors were centuries ago. It's fundamental to understanding health risks, tailoring healthcare so it actually works best, and even shaping maybe a more nuanced sense of national identity. And for a place like the UAE, historically such a pivot point, a crossroads, well, the genetic story is incredibly rich and, like you said, full of surprises. It really defies simple labels.
Absolutely. And that paradox you mentioned, it really grabs you. You hear about high rates of cousin marriage, common in the Gulf for ages. And you think, okay, homogeneous population, maybe more risk of certain genetic conditions because the gene pool isn't as wide. But the data points somewhere else entirely, doesn't it? It adds so many layers. How can both things be true, that tradition and this surprising diversity?
That's a really critical point, because that assumption, while logical on the surface, often misses the bigger historical context. Yes, consanguinity cousin marriage can concentrate certain traits or conditions within specific family lines, no doubt about that. But it doesn't automatically dictate the overall genetic diversity of a whole nation, especially one with a history as dynamic as the UAE's. The studies are very clear. Research on over 1,000 Emiratis showed a population that was actually quite heterogeneous. They described it as having a smooth genetic gradient, not separate distinct clusters.
A smooth genetic gradient. Okay, what does that mean in practical terms, like for you and me listening?
Right. So instead of finding, say, clearly defined groups within the population with sharp genetic differences between them, you see this continuous gradual shift in genetic makeup across the population. It points to a deep history of mixing of connections between different ancestral groups over a very long time. And that counteracts some of the isolating effects you might expect from consanguinity alone. It sort of challenges those simpler ideas about distinct tribal origins. It suggests their histories are actually much more tangled up, genetically speaking. It tells a story of connection, not isolation.
That's a really important distinction, the difference between family patterns and the whole national picture. It implies so much movement, interaction, way more than you might first think. But anyway, let's go deeper than just saying diverse. The research gets really specific about where this diversity comes from, right? What are the actual threads in this genetic tapestry?
Exactly. It's not just a vague idea, it's quantified very precisely. So let's look at the specifics. One study focused on 232 Emirati women. Just looking at their mitochondrial DNA, or mtDNA, researchers found an incredible 968 different variants spread across 15 major haplogroups.
Whoa, okay. Remind us quickly, mtDNA and haplogroups.
Sure. So mtDNA is passed down just from mother to child. It gives you a really clear line straight back through your maternal ancestry, like an unbroken chain.
Yep.
And haplogroups, think of them as major branches on the human family tree, representing groups sharing a common maternal ancestor way, way back, often tens of thousands of years ago. So finding that many variants and that many haplogroups in just over 200 women, that signals huge genetic variety from many different ancient paths.
Okay, so not just general mixing, but specific ancient lines from different places. What are the numbers? Where do these maternal ancestors come from?
The percentages are really quite striking. The analyses showed about 16.8% traced back to East African or Indian populations. Then you've got another 12% specifically from South Asian origins linked to haplogroup M, which is really common across the Indian subcontinent, ancient lineage there. And then there's a significant chunk, maybe 11 to 15%, from Western Eurasian origins. That means haplogroups like R, J, and K, which you find in populations from the Middle East, Europe, even parts of Central Asia. These numbers aren't just statistics. They represent real human journeys, trade, settlement over millennia.
Wow.
And it's not just the maternal side. A bigger study looked genome-wide, nearly 1,200 people from all 7 Emirates. They use something like 1.7 million genetic markers. Think of those as signposts all across your DNA. This allowed them to map the fine-scale genetic structure in something called admixture.
Admix.
Yeah, admixture is basically the genetic legacy of previously separate populations meeting and mixing. Interbreeding, it leaves a blended signature in the DNA. So this wasn't just a snapshot. It was like a super high-resolution map of the entire Emirati genetic landscape. Incredibly detailed.
That's amazing. A high-res map of history right there in the cells.
Mm-hmm.
But why? What drove all this mixing? What historical forces created this intricate pattern in the UAE?
Well, if you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, you can really see how geography and history literally wrote themselves into the genes. The UAE sits right at this crucial crossroads, doesn't it? On the Arabian Peninsula, linking East and West, Africa and Asia, this location just naturally facilitated ancient migrations, massive trade networks, continuous cultural exchange, and all that leaves genetic traces. And we can even date some of it. Genetic analysis suggests significant African ancestry started mixing in around 1,000 years ago, probably linked to trade across the Indian Ocean, Red Sea, Central Asian admixture. That seems to go back even further, maybe 2,900 years ago. Points to ancient land routes, Silk Road connections, perhaps. And these processes didn't just happen once. They continued, contributing over time.
So constant movement, constant interaction.
Exactly. This flow of people driven by trade in pearls, spices, goods, but also by exploration, settlement built up this diverse genetic profile over centuries, millennia even. So genetically, Emiratis kind of sit as a bridge. They fall between European, sub-Saharan African, and South Asian populations. It's a direct reflection of all that ancient movement and sustained contact. Not isolation, it's a tangible link to this vast human story.
It's really profound, isn't it? Thinking about those ancient journeys being part of your cells today, it challenges any simple, fixed idea of identity. But okay, this isn't just digging up the past. This deep genetic understanding is powering some incredible modern medicine in the UAE right now. Let's talk about the future of health. Things like the Emirati Genome Programme.
Right. So what does all this mean for healthcare today? This is where history meets the cutting edge. The Emirati Genome Programme is this huge national effort. The main goal, to catalog all the specific genomic variations found in Emiratis. And why is that so vital? Because if you understand the unique genetic blueprint of your population, how it might differ from, say, a standard European reference genome, doctors can get way more precise with diagnosis. They can tailor preventative care in a truly personal way.
Personalized care based on Emirati genetics.
Precisely. Think about a family with a history of some inherited condition. In the past, diagnosis might be slow, treatment kind of general. Now with this program, and crucially with the new population-specific reference genome they've published, which is like the master blueprint for Emirati DNA, healthcare pros can spot specific genetic markers for that condition much more easily. They can understand its prevalence better, maybe predict how it might progress. This opens the door to what we call precision medicine.
Precision medicine.
Yeah. Healthcare tailored right down to the individual. It means more effective treatments, maybe different drug dosages that work better for you, proactive strategies to prevent illness, all based on your family's unique genetic makeup. It's moving way beyond one size fits all. It's about optimizing health for everyone.
That sounds incredibly promising. Truly revolutionary for patient care. But, and there's often a but, with big data projects, these massive national genome programs raise some really complex ethical questions, don't they? They need very careful thought. I mean, the UAE is building one of the world's biggest citizen genome databases. They've sequenced, around 702,000 Emiratis already? That's a huge amount of deeply personal data all in one place.
It absolutely is. And this raises that critical question. What happens when science gathers so much personal information on this scale? The potential benefits for health, for science, even for the economy are massive. No one denies that. But critics are, quite rightly, asking tough questions about privacy, about consent, especially ongoing consent, and about who might eventually use or profit from this data. You hear the term DNA goldmine sometimes. It acknowledges the value, but it also hints at the risks, right? Risks of misuse, maybe lack of oversight, data becoming a commodity.
What kind of specific concerns are being raised?
Well, beyond just basic data security, there's worry about something called function creep. That's where data collected for one good reason, like healthcare, might later get used for something else entirely. Maybe national security, maybe commercial use by companies, without people really agreeing to that specific new use down the line. Who actually owns this data? Can supposedly anonymous data ever be truly secure from re-identification, especially as technology gets smarter? And could these databases accidentally create new divides? affecting insurance, jobs, opportunities based on your genes. These aren't just abstract fears. They're real debates happening everywhere. Genomics is advancing rapidly. The UAE's program is right at the forefront of needing to navigate this. It's this really delicate balancing act. Push science forward for better health, but building rock-solid, transparent safeguards for people's rights over their own genetic information. The ethics and the societal discussion are just as crucial as the lab work.
What an incredible arc we've covered today. We started with that surprising genetic diversity in the UAE, challenging the simple assumptions and finding ancient migrations written in the DNA. Then we traced those specific ancestral threads, East Africa, South Asia, Western Eurasia, seeing how geography and trade literally shaped the gene pool over millennia. And then boom, right into the present and future. The Emirati Genome Programme, this amazing potential for personalized medicine, a real healthcare revolution tailored to the individual. But as we just explored, that incredible science comes hand in hand with these vital, complex ethical debates. Data ownership, consent, privacy. Especially when you're mapping genomes on a national scale, it really highlights how critical thoughtful governance is alongside scientific breakthroughs.
Absolutely. And maybe here's something to leave you, our listeners, thinking about. Consider this. If your own genetic map, your personal DNA, holds echoes of ancient journeys, maybe African, maybe Central Asian, from thousands of years ago, how might that change the way you think about your own identity, about national belonging today? And as nations like the UAE pour resources into building these huge genetic databases for really important health benefits, what do you think are the absolute must-have safeguards, the non-negotiables we need to ensure public trust and protect individual privacy and autonomy in this genomic age we're entering? It's a fascinating crossroads of science, society, and who we are. Definitely something worth pondering as genomics continues to shape our future.